let's switch to evil. We've been sniffing, learning how to sniff. We've learned Wireshark, put it in practice with it for a couple of hours. But okay, so now let's think about switching over to the evil side of things. We need to talk about how we can abuse, as a penetration tester, MAC data locally on a host, on a regular Windows host or whatever host it is. They have an ARP cache table. This is a list of MAC addresses that they know about that are mapped to IP addresses locally. That lasts for 600 seconds. This gives you information about hosts that you normally want to talk to so that you don't have to re-resolve MAC to IP with every single conversation. Host computers, well, the router also does this too, has this information in it. So both of them together, we could start playing with them and preying upon them. So we want to figure out how to mess with this. Okay, so let's talk ARP spoofing for a second. We're going to convince a victim to send traffic to an attacker. You would say, normally, good guy, going to this location, okay, that data is flowing across here. So what I will do is I will configure IP forwarding for any traffic from this network to this network. And then what I'll do is I'll send a fake ARP response to a victim. Hey, when you want to get there, remap your default outbound to me. I'm actually the way you want to go. The victim sends the traffic destined for the outside world based on the poisoned ARP table entry. I poisoned him, he sends to me. I now examine the traffic that's sitting right in front of me, and I pass it on to its destination. So I've inserted myself into the conversation. That means that I need physical proximity. I can't do this across the internet yet, not with MAC addresses. So here's what the diagram looks like. Bob's trying to get to Alice. The attacker says, when you want to get to Alice, I'm on your switch, forward your data through me, and then it gets passed back through to Alice. The end. We win. Sort of. Because Alice also is going to respond to Bob. So we need to map on both sides of the conversation. Now, there are controls against this, and know that this has been dampened down at this point with most robust switching networks. So on the switch, you can actually do MAC filtering. The IDS will actually stop this in a lot of cases. Now, this is a bad thing. You can fix the address in the client. You can literally say to the client, a static ARP entry of your router is there. Dangerous thing to do, but sometimes that's appropriate. None of this stuff is good, but it's what people do to protect themselves. Now, if this conversation that was going back and forth between the two of them was encrypted, I could redirect it to myself and not be able to examine it, and I pass it on. Could we fake this? And the answer is yes. If we can social engineer the parties on either side just for a moment in time. What sniffing through encryption requires is that you have a base understanding of asymmetric encryption and symmetric encryption and how to take advantage of it. When we talk about SSL and SSH, we're using trusted certificates and public keys. So we talk about that in the cryptology section, but for now what you need to know is that asymmetric keys are about certificates, and those certificates are offered by servers. In a man-in-the-middle attack, if we've got an encryption connection here, what we do is we pretend. So let's pretend that good guy over here wants to go to his bank over here. What we say is redirect traffic through me. Okay, we've got that, and now it's encrypted traffic and it's flowing through me. Now what I want you to do is, you say I want to go to thebank.com, and I say intercept a request for thebank.com and offer them a certificate. They'll set up a session with me and create that encrypted communication here. And then I'll say, hey, I'm that guy over there. Offer me a certificate. And we'll set up encrypted communications here. I'll de-encrypt in the center and look at what's going on. How would I do that? Well, it's the same thing that the bank does in an SSL setup in the six steps to SSL, which again, we'll talk about in the cryptology section. But now I had to set up an encrypted session here and an encrypted session here. I can't say I'm going to break the encryption. That's not going to work. So our man-in-the-middle attack lets it look like to the people on both sides that they've got encrypted channels, which they do. It just happens to be they're two different encrypted channels. What I would like to do is resolve inappropriately. I would like to sniff the DNS traffic. Remember, in DNS, we're trying to match a fully qualified domain name to a routable IP address, and that's done by the start of authority in DNS. What we will do is we will spoof that we are the start of authority. How we will do that is we will convince the party to go through us, and we'll say, oh, this is the resolution. Oh, you want DNS resolution for the start of authority? I'm the start of authority. Here, I'll give that back to you. Or what I can say is, I can pretend that the start of authority is responding back to you, but the first response back to you from that start of authority, whatever it is, resolution of DNS to IP address, whatever it is, I can hand it to them if I can beat them there. Think about it. If the good guy on the inside wants to go to somebody all the way across the internet and I'm sitting here and he says, hey, where's my bank? That's going to take a while for it to get out there and come back. Where's my bank? The bank is here. And if I send that first, he holds that. I've poisoned his cache, and now he'll resolve to, well, where I want him to resolve, whatever IP address I choose. I'll have to set this up at first, get it programmed, realize, listen to a little bit of the traffic that's going on here, and then set ourselves up for success in the future. You can't do this all at once. This takes a little bit of patience. So here it is in the diagram. The attacker says to the DNS server, hi, I'm here. The customer says, I'm looking for something. What I've done is I've put it in the fake server, I mean the real server. I've said, attacker here, DNS server, take this resolution. And the customer goes to the wrong site. That means that the DNS server, I would have had to have intercepted the DNS server's request for the start of authority out there. I can either do it to the DNS server if I'm quick, which is unlikely, or I can do it to the customer, which is more likely. I would rather do it to the DNS server because then all other clients of that server now take orders from me. We capture more than just one at a time. So sniffers capture the network traffic. That's what we do. We roll all of that stuff up. We can look at logins and passwords if they're in clear text. If they're not in clear text, then we can redirect through an SSL man-in-the-middle attack to capture that information and re-encrypt it as it goes along. When you view the traffic on switch networks, you've got MAC flooding and ARP spoofing. Those are your two tools that you use. So let's talk about some of the things that you're going to need. Wireshark training. Go to wiresharktraining.com or just wireshark.org. IANA for your protocol numbers, IETF for your RFCs. There's a great Wireshark book out there. It's about a year old. And then if you need trace files to practice with, you can go to pcappernet. So that's sniffing in a nutshell.